High above Earth's atmosphere, the Valderi observation vessel maintained its perfect cloak, its quantum shields rendering it invisible to what they believed were humanity's primitive detection systems. First observer Kethel stood before the ship's primary viewing screen, his scaled fingers tapping rhythmically against the smooth metallic surface of his command console. Behind him, a team of xenologists and military analysts worked in focused silence, documenting every detail of the species below. Another nuclear detonation test in their desert regions, reported second observer Mira, her voice carrying the distinctive musical undertones of the southern Valderi colonies. Their radiation containment protocols are basic at best. Kethel's violet eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. For 3 orbital cycles, they had watched this supposedly emerging species, gathering data for the Confederation's expansion protocols. Everything they had seen painted a picture of a civilization still stumbling through its technological adolescence. Primitive fission weapons, chemical rockets, internal combustion engines. It was almost embarrassing to watch. "Show me their global communication networks again," Kethel commanded. The main display shifted, showing the web of satellites, transmission towers, and undersea cables that humans use to stay connected. To Valderi eyes, it seemed hopelessly inefficient. No quantum entanglement, no psychic resonance fields, not even basic neural networking. "They still rely on electronic data transmission," Mira noted, her tone carrying just a hint of contempt. "Their entire civilization would collapse if we simply disrupted their satellite network." But something about the humans bothered Kethel. In his 300 cycles of observation work, he had never encountered a species quite like them. They were fragmented, divided into nations and factions, yet somehow managed to progress. Their technology was uneven, brilliant innovations in some areas while remaining centuries behind in others. They were, by any reasonable metric, primitive. Yet, play back the incident from their orbital station last week, he ordered. The screen showed a critical failure aboard humanity's primary space station. A micrometeorite had punctured one of their modules. By all logic, the crew should have died. Instead, they had improvised a repair using nothing but local materials and what Kethel could only describe as sheer stubborn determination. "Their adaptability indices are off the charts," commented Chief Analyst Friend from his station. "They solve problems in ways that our predictive algorithms consistently fail to anticipate." That was the troubling part. The Valderi Confederation had conquered 18 species across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their quantum computers could predict with 99.99% accuracy how a civilization would respond to any given scenario. But humans kept defying those predictions. "Show me their military installations again," Kethel commanded. The display shifted, showing what appeared to be painfully obvious defense facilities. Airfields with primitive jet aircraft, ports holding nuclear-powered vessels, bases with armored ground vehicles. All of it seemed so apparent. "No signs of energy shields," Mira reported. "No gravity manipulation technology. No faster-than-light capabilities. Their most advanced weapon systems rely on chemical propellants and nuclear fission." Yet something nagged at Kethel's instincts. The humans made no effort to hide their military capabilities. Everything was in plain sight. For a species that had demonstrated remarkable ingenuity in other areas, this seemed odd. "Run a deep scan of their ocean floors," he ordered suddenly. "Full quantum spectrum analysis." "Sir," Mira seemed puzzled. "We've already mapped their underwater facilities." "Do it again." The scan took several minutes, the ship's quantum sensors penetrating the planet's oceans. The results showed exactly what their previous scans had revealed: a network of basic sonar arrays, underwater military bases, and communication cables. "Nothing unusual, sir," Mira reported. "Everything exactly where we expected it to be." Kethel stared at the display, his scaled fingers now completely still on the console. "Exactly where we expected it to be," he repeated softly. "Doesn't that strike you as strange? In 3 months of observation, we haven't found a single surprising military installation. Not one hidden base. Not one secret weapon facility. For a species that demonstrates remarkable creativity in crisis situations, their military infrastructure is suspiciously predictable. An uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge. The Valderi had built their empire on the principle that inferior species could be easily understood and predicted. Humanity checked all the boxes for a primitive civilization ready for conquest. Their technology was basic, their defenses obvious, their political structure fragmented. It should have been simple. Yet as Kethel studied the image of the blue planet below, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something fundamental about these humans. Every other species they had encountered had tried to reach for the stars as quickly as possible, developing space travel and energy weapons as soon as they could. Humans, despite having the basic physics knowledge necessary for such advances, seemed content with their slower progress, almost as if. "Send a probe to their lunar surface," he ordered suddenly. "Full spectrum analysis of the dark side of their moon." "Sir." Mira seemed startled. "Their primitive sensors will detect the probe's launch." "Yes," Kethel said softly. "They will." As the probe prepared for launch, Kethel wondered if the Confederation's assessment of humanity might be the greatest miscalculation in their 1,000 cycles of expansion. These humans, with their apparent technological limitations and obvious military displays, had achieved something no other species had managed. They had made the Valderi uncertain. The probe launched, its quantum drives flaring as it headed toward Earth's moon. On the viewing screen, Earth continued its serene rotation, the blue jewel in the cosmic darkness. Kethel watched it with new eyes, wondering what other surprises this seemingly primitive species might have hidden beneath their carefully crafted appearance of technological adolescence. "Contact First Command," he ordered quietly. Tell them we need to review the conquest protocols. There's something different about this species, something we don't understand yet." As his crew carried out his orders, Kethel continued to study Earth, a new respect growing in his mind. The humans had achieved something remarkable. They had made the galaxy's premier surveillance species doubt its own observations, and in Kethel's experience, that might be the most advanced technology of all. The United Earth Council chamber in Geneva hummed with quiet conversation as Ambassador Sarah Chen studied the holographic projection of the Valderi ultimatum. The alien text floated in the air, its translation scrolling beneath in multiple Earth languages. Around her, representatives from every nation maintained a composure that would have surprised their alien observers. "They're giving us 72 hours to surrender," she announced to the assembled council, her voice steady. "They believe our detection of their probe was accidental. They think we're panicking." A soft chuckle rippled through the chamber. General Marcus Rodriguez of the Combined Earth Defense Force leaned forward in his seat, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "Their probe performed exactly as expected. Surface scans only, no deep penetration of the lunar crust. They saw exactly what we wanted them to see." The chamber's quantum-shielded walls, invisible to Valderi sensors, continued their constant analysis of possible surveillance attempts. For decades, humanity had known they weren't alone. The discovery of alien observation satellites in the late 2030s had led to the most ambitious deception program in human history. "Director Patel," Sarah called out, "how are our friends responding to their own scans?" Dr. Aisha Patel, head of the Technological Advancement Division, activated her own holographic display. "The Valderi are following their standard conquest protocols to the letter. Their scans show them a fragmented Earth, technologically primitive by their standards. Our surface installations are performing perfectly. Every secret facility they detect is broadcasting exactly the level of technology they expect to find." The room's attention turned to a new hologram showing the Valderi fleet now approaching Earth orbit. To alien sensors, it would appear as though these ships had suddenly emerged from faster-than-light travel. In reality, Earth's quantum detection grid had tracked their approach for weeks. They're positioning themselves for what they believe will be a simple show of force, General Rodriguez continued. Their tactical formations suggest they expect minimal resistance, standard intimidation protocols. Sarah stood, her simple business suit concealing more advanced technology than the entire Valdari fleet. The question before this council is simple. Do we proceed with Protocol Omega? The chamber grew silent. Protocol Omega had been developed over 30 years of careful planning. While the Valdari and other alien races focused on obvious displays of technological power, humanity had taken a different path. They had learned to hide in plain sight, to make their achievements invisible to those who judged advancement by its most visible manifestations. The lunar defense grid is ready, announced General Rodriguez. The moment they attempt their show of force, we can activate our true defensive capabilities. Dr. Patel's fingers danced across her holographic interface. Our quantum entanglement network remains undetected. The Valdari still believe we're dependent on satellite communications. The moment they attempt to disable our primitive communication systems, they'll find themselves facing something they've never encountered before. Sarah nodded slowly. And the Artemis Protocol. The room grew even quieter. The Artemis Protocol represented humanity's ultimate response to alien aggression, not a weapon, but a complete reimagining of how warfare could be conducted. Ready, Dr. Patel confirmed. Our distributed quantum consciousness network can be activated at a moment's notice. While they've been watching our visible technology, we've been building something they can't even comprehend. Sarah turned to face the massive windows overlooking Lake Geneva. To any observer, the view would show a simple government building. In reality, every window was an advanced sensor array, every architectural feature a disguised weapons platform. Send our response to the Valdari, she commanded. The room's AI system acknowledged with a subtle pulse of light. On board the Valdari command ship, First Observer Kethel received Earth's response with growing unease. The message was simple, almost primitive in its directness. We acknowledge your presence and welcome diplomatic dialogue. No panic, no desperate pleas, no signs of military mobilization. Just a calm acknowledgement that sent chills down his spine. They can't possibly understand the gravity of their situation, Mira insisted, but her voice carried a note of uncertainty. Kethel studied the message again. 3 months of observation had shown them a primitive species dependent on basic technology. Their response should have been fear, chaos, desperate attempts at defense. Instead, launch the first warning strike, he ordered, his voice heavy. Target their satellite network as planned. As the order was given, Kethel couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something fundamental about these humans. Their apparent primitive nature, their obvious military installations, their calm response to overwhelming force, all of it felt wrong. In Geneva, Sarah Chen watched the Valdari ships move into attack position. They're proceeding exactly as predicted, she announced to the council. All elements of Protocol Omega are in position. Humanity has spent decades preparing for this moment, appearing weak while building strength they couldn't imagine. She turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth, her expression resolute. Let them fire the first shot. Let them think they're crippling our communications. And then we show them what humanity has really become. As the Valdari weapons powered up, targeting what they believed were Earth's vital satellite networks, humanity's true defensive grid hummed silently beneath the lunar surface, waiting to reveal that technology wasn't always about what you could see. Sometimes, the most advanced civilization was the one that had learned to hide its power in plain sight. The Valdari strike force launched their first salvo with practiced precision. Hundreds of energy beams lanced toward Earth's satellite network, their targeting computers predicting a complete communications blackout within seconds. First Observer Kethel watched the tactical display, waiting for the chaos that would surely follow as humanity's primitive technology failed. The beams struck their targets perfectly. Satellites exploded in brilliant flashes of light, creating a spectacular display visible from both space and Earth's surface. Kethel allowed himself a small smile. Everything was proceeding according to standard conquest protocols. And then his tactical officer spoke, confusion evident in his voice. "Sir, we're still detecting human communications." "Impossible," Mira snapped. "We just destroyed their entire satellite network." Nevertheless, the tactical officer insisted, their communications continue uninterrupted. In fact, they seem to be improving in clarity. In Geneva's United Earth Council chamber, Sarah Chen watched the Valdares' opening move with quiet satisfaction. "They took the bait," she announced. "All decoy satellites successfully eliminated. Initiating Phase 2, deep beneath the lunar surface, in chambers that had taken decades to construct in absolute secrecy, Earth's true defense grid awakened. What the Valdare had detected as simple satellites had been elaborate decoys, designed specifically to be targeted and destroyed. Earth's real communication network, based on quantum entanglement technology, had been operating silently alongside them for years. "Signal from Lunar Command," General Rodriguez reported. "Ghost fleet emerging from subsurface hangars. On the dark side of the moon." Massive doors hidden beneath the lunar regolith began to slide open. What emerged would shatter every assumption the Valdare had made about human technological capabilities. On the Valdare command ship, alarms began to sound. Multiple contacts emerging from the lunar surface. The tactical officer shouted, "Energy signatures. This is impossible." Kethel rushed to the tactical display, his violet eyes widening in shock. The vessels rising from the moon's surface defied everything they thought they knew about human technology. These weren't the chemical-powered rockets or primitive nuclear ships they'd observed. These were something else entirely. "Full spectrum analysis," he ordered, his voice tight with tension. "What are we looking at?" The data scrolling across his screen made no sense. The human vessels seemed to bend space around them, their hulls shifting and adapting like living organisms. They employed no conventional propulsion systems, instead moving through space as if they were part of it. In Geneva, Dr. Patel's fingers danced across her holographic controls. Ghost fleet fully deployed. Quantum camouflage systems operating at optimal efficiency. The Valdare are seeing our ships for the first time, and their sensors can't make sense of what they're detecting. The Ghost fleet was humanity's masterpiece of deception and innovation. While alien observers watched Earth's obvious space program, these ships had been constructed in absolute secrecy. They represented a completely different approach to space warfare. Not bigger guns or stronger shields, but a fundamental reimagining of what a warship could be. "They're attempting to target our vessels," General Rodriguez reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. "Their targeting systems can't lock on. The quantum fluctuation fields are working perfectly." The Ghost Fleet ships seemed to flicker in and out of reality, their positions impossible to pin down. They weren't just ships. They were physical manifestations of humanity's greatest scientific achievement, the ability to manipulate the quantum fabric of space itself. On the Valdare command ship, panic was beginning to set in. "Our weapons can't achieve target lock," the tactical officer reported. "These vessels, they're not behaving according to any known physics." Kethel watched in growing horror as the human ships approached his fleet. No energy weapons, no conventional shields, no massive engines. Instead, space itself seemed to move with them, around them, through them. "All ships, open fire," he ordered. "Full spread, all weapons." The Valdare fleet erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and plasma torpedoes. The space between the two fleets filled with enough firepower to reduce a small moon to atoms. And yet, no impacts. Mira whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "How is this possible?" The human ships hadn't dodged or blocked the attacks. Instead, the laws of physics themselves seemed to bend around them, causing the Valdare weapons to pass through space their ships no longer occupied, or perhaps had never occupied at all. In Geneva, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. "They're beginning to understand," she said quietly. "Show them the next phase." The Ghost Fleet ships began to emit a strange, pulsing field that spread through space like ripples in a pond. Where it touched Valderi ships, their advanced technology began to behave erratically. Quantum computers crashed, weapon systems failed, and communication networks dissolved into chaos. "What are they doing to us?" Kethel demanded, watching as his mighty fleet began to lose cohesion. The answer, had he known it, would have shattered his understanding of technological advancement. Humanity hadn't tried to match the Valderi's level of technology. Instead, they had gone in a completely different direction, developing ways to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Signal from the human fleet, his communication officer reported, voice shaking. On his screen, a simple message appeared. "This is humanity's first and only warning. We have spent decades preparing not to match your technology, but to transcend it. Withdraw now, or witness capabilities your sensors cannot comprehend, and your weapons cannot touch." Kethel stared at the message, then at the impossible human ships that defied everything he thought he knew about physics and warfare. For the first time in his long career, he faced an enemy that hadn't just surpassed his expectations, they had rendered them meaningless. First Observer Kethel stood frozen before his command console as the impossible unfolded before him. The Valderi fleet, pride of the Confederation's military might, hung powerless in space. Their advanced weapons, the product of 1,000 years of technological evolution, had proven useless against humanity's Ghost Fleet. New energy signature detected, his tactical officer reported, voice trembling. It's coming from Earth's oceans. Beneath Earth's waters, humanity's second surprise was awakening. What the Valderi had dismissed as primitive sonar arrays and underwater bases began to shift and transform. The oceans themselves seemed to come alive with technological marvels that had been hidden in plain sight. In the Geneva Command Center, Dr. Patel's hands moved across her control interface with practiced precision. Initiating Leviathan Protocol. Deep sea quantum matrices online. The oceans erupted. Massive structures rose from the depths, but these were no conventional weapons platforms. They were biotechnological marvels, seamless fusions of organic and quantum engineering that the Valderi sensors couldn't even begin to classify. "What are we seeing?" Mira whispered aboard the Valderi command ship, her professional demeanor cracking as she watched the impossible readings on her screen. The answer would have stunned her. While the Valderi had focused on building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humanity had taken a fundamentally different approach. They had learned to work with Earth's biosphere, creating technologies that were as much alive as they were mechanical. Multiple quantum signatures detected in Earth's atmosphere. The tactical officer reported, his voice rising in pitch. "The humans, they're doing something to the planet's magnetic field." Sarah Chen nodded to General Rodriguez. "Initiate the Aurora Network." Earth's magnetic field, which the Valderi had considered nothing more than a natural phenomenon to be ignored, suddenly revealed its true nature. For decades, humanity had been seeding it with quantum-scale machines, turning the planet's natural defenses into something far more formidable. The Aurora Network activated. Streams of charged particles, controlled with precision that bordered on artistry, began to weave between the Ghost Fleet ships. Earth's magnetic field transformed into a vast defensive web, channeling energy in ways that defied conventional physics. "Sir," Kethel's science officer called out, "these readings, they're suggesting that the humans have found a way to manipulate quantum fields on a planetary scale." In Geneva, Dr. Patel allowed herself a moment of pride. The Valderi built their empire on the assumption that technological progress followed a predictable path. They never considered that a species might take a completely different road. The Ghost Fleet ships began to move in perfect synchronization with the Aurora Network. They weren't just vessels anymore. They were nodes in a vast quantum web that encompassed Earth's entire sphere of influence. Every weapon the Valderi fired was not just avoided but absorbed. Its energy redistributed through the network and transformed. "They're not just defending," Kethel realized, horror dawning in his voice. They're learning. Every attack we launch teaches them more about our technology. He was right. Humanity's quantum systems weren't just defensive measures. They were vast learning networks. Each Valdari weapon signature was analyzed. Each tactic studied and countered before it could be fully deployed. The Leviathan structures rising from Earth's oceans began to emit fields that interfered with the Valdari ship's quantum cores. Ships that had been merely disabled now found their very operating systems being rewritten. The humans weren't trying to destroy the Valdari fleet. They were reprogramming it. Full retreat, Kethel ordered. But it was too late. The Aurora network had already enclosed his fleet in a quantum field that made conventional faster-than-light travel impossible. They were trapped, not by physical barriers or energy fields, but by localized alterations to the laws of physics themselves. In Geneva, Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with calm satisfaction. "Send the final message," she ordered. Aboard his ship, Kethel received the transmission. Unlike the previous warning, this one came with a full data packet that made his quantum computers strain to process it. As he read, his understanding of the universe itself began to crack. The humans hadn't just developed new weapons or defenses. They had created an entirely new paradigm of technological advancement. While the Valdari had built their civilization on the assumption that progress meant bigger, faster, and more powerful, humanity had asked different questions entirely. Instead of asking how to build better weapons, they had asked how to make weapons unnecessary. Instead of developing stronger shields, they had learned to work with the fundamental forces of reality. Their technology wasn't about domination. It was about understanding. "Signal from Earth," his communication officer announced. They're offering to share their technology with us." Kethel stared at the tactical display, watching as his mighty fleet hung helpless in space, surrounded by technological marvels that his most advanced sensors couldn't even properly detect. The humans had achieved something no other species in known space had managed. They had made warfare itself obsolete. The quantum data packet contained more than just technical specifications. It contained a fundamental truth that the Valdari, in all their centuries of expansion, had never considered. True advancement wasn't about building bigger weapons, but about finding ways to make weapons unnecessary. They weren't hiding their technology, Kethel realized. They were hiding their entire philosophical approach to technological development. And we never even thought to look for it. 1 month after the confrontation in Earth's orbit, the United Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, representatives from every major spacefaring civilization gathered not to discuss war or territorial disputes, but to understand how they had all been so fundamentally wrong about a single species. The great hall of the council hummed with nervous energy as Sarah Chen took the podium. Behind her, a holographic display showed the Valdari fleet, now peacefully docked at Earth's new orbital stations, undergoing what the humans called technological integration. For centuries, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. The galaxy has measured civilization by its most visible achievements. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, faster drives. Humanity chose a different path. In orbit around Earth, the Ghost Fleet ships had begun teaching the Valdari vessels a new way of existing. The quantum integration wasn't just changing their technology. It was transforming their fundamental understanding of what technology could be. "We didn't hide our advancement," Sarah continued. "We hid our philosophy. While you built weapons to dominate space, we learned to work with it. While you developed shields to resist nature, we found ways to become part of it." The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as she activated a holographic demonstration. It showed Earth's quantum defense network, not as a weapons system, but as an extension of natural universal forces. The Aurora network wasn't fighting physics. It was dancing with it. First observer Kethel, now serving as the Valdari's chief diplomatic liaison to Earth, stood to address the council. "My people have spent the past month studying human technology. What we've learned has shaken the foundation of everything we thought we knew about technological progress. He gestured, and a holographic display shifted to show the Leviathan structures in Earth's oceans. "These aren't weapons," he explained. "They're a symbiosis of technology and nature that we never imagined possible. The humans didn't conquer their world's biosphere. They became its partners." In the months since the confrontation, the galaxy had watched in amazement as humanity began sharing their technological philosophy. It wasn't about superiority or dominance. It was about understanding, integration, and harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe. "The quantum cores of our ships," Kethel continued, "which we thought were the pinnacle of our achievement, now seem crude compared to human quantum integration technology. They don't force quantum states. They work with them. They don't fight uncertainty. They embrace it." Dr. Patel, standing beside Sarah, activated another holographic display. This one showed the transformation of a Valdari warship as it integrated with human quantum systems. The massive weapons arrays weren't being removed. They were being repurposed, transformed into nodes of a vast communication and understanding network. "We offer this technology freely," Sarah announced to the stunned council. "Not as a weapon, not as a means of control, but as a new way of thinking about our place in the universe." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just offering advanced technology. They were offering a completely new paradigm of civilization. Warfare wasn't made obsolete through superior firepower, but through superior understanding. "Already," Dr. Patel added, "we're seeing unprecedented results. The Valdari ships integrated with our quantum networks are discovering principles of physics we never imagined. They're not just vessels anymore. They're explorers of reality itself." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives from 100 species all realized the same thing simultaneously. Humanity hadn't just developed better technology. They had evolved beyond the very concept of technological warfare. "The choice before this council is simple," Sarah concluded. "Continue the old path of domination and conflict, or join us in exploring what's possible when we stop fighting the universe and start working with it." In Earth orbit, the Ghost Fleet ships continued their silent dance with space itself. The Aurora network pulsed with possibilities, each quantum fluctuation a reminder that the true measure of advancement wasn't in destruction, but in understanding. Kethel watched the proceedings with new eyes. His people had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species ready for conquest. Instead, they had found teachers who showed them that true power lay not in dominating reality, but in becoming one with it. "We thought we were advanced," he whispered to Sarah after the session. "But we were children playing with toys, thinking they were weapons. You showed us what real advancement looks like." As the council session concluded, representatives from across the galaxy lined up to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. But they weren't seeking weapons or defenses. They were seeking understanding. The understanding that humanity had gained by taking a road less traveled. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that everyone had dismissed as primitive had shown them all the truth they had forgotten. That the greatest power comes not from fighting against the universe, but from learning to dance with it. And in the depths of space, humanity's quantum networks continued to expand, not as a barrier or a weapon, but as a bridge to a future where technology wasn't a means of destruction, but a path to understanding the very fabric of reality itself.